Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard, but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel as well. And we got a lot to get to tonight, so make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you guys subscribe. We're on our push to 200,000 subscribers. We're already to 197,000, and we have a lot to talk about, mainly about the current state of affairs, because we're 2 months out. This is not, the preseason anymore. We're definitely in the home stretch for sure. You have early voting starting this month in just a couple of weeks. People are requesting ballots in, a lot of states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina. And we've got a lot to get to, including the 13 keys, because I've gotten so many questions about it. And it's like, people need to chill. This is not definitive. We'll talk about why. But here we go. Face cam is on. We're 2 months away from the presidential election. And Donald Trump currently is in a good position. Polymarket, he leads the betting odds by around 7 percentage points, but also the national polls. The national polls that we see here, Donald Trump is improving in, believe it or not. Emerson went from Harris +4. See what they do? They switch it out. Then if you say it the wrong way, it's the end of your career in terms of Trump. But you look at Morning Consult, that went from Harris +4, that went to Harris +3. Donald Trump gained 2, Harris gained 1 from the previous poll. And you have polls out of Wall Street Journal, Harris +1, Yahoo, Harris +1, Quinnipiac, Harris +1. And there's other pollsters that are not in the RCP average, but this is kind of the most accurate average in 2016 and 2020 compared to others like 538, who had Biden winning the popular vote by 9 points in 2020. That didn't happen. But you look at this, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, pretty much a dead heat. 48-47 if you round. That's kind of where I anticipate this race is. That's not good enough for Kamala Harris, because you cannot win the election as a Democrat unless you're winning nationwide by 3 points. We have a system called the Electoral College. Democrats hate it because they suck at it, because they've lost middle America with their insane policies and everything else they stand for. And that's why they're trying to backtrack on it as we speak in real time. It's not working out too well for them. But the election comes down to 7 major swing states. And in them, we see polls out of Pennsylvania. This is Harris's peak. You just had August. You just had the DNC, all this media hype. What happened? She's not leading in the polls by the margins we saw for Biden. Biden at this point led by 7. Hillary Clinton led by around 4 nationally. Kamala Harris can't even lead by 2. And don't give me one of these other aggregates, because they are illegitimate. The polls they include in their aggregate, in many cases, are push polls. And they'll, ignore certain polls like Rasmussen, which, again, they have a bias the other way, but they've been just as accurate, if not, more accurate than some of these other polls like Morning Compost, who they'll put in their aggregate, or FDU, they'll get a Harris +7, but then it's a primed sample, they say, and they admit to saying in that sample, would you rather vote for the Queen Kamala or the evil orange Blumph, basically? And of course, Harris wins that sample by double digits, and the sample where they don't prime it, which is like an actual ballot, it's Harris, it's actually Trump +1. So how exactly is that poll a legitimate poll? It's not a legitimate poll. It's a clown poll. It belongs in the garbage can right next to a lot of other pollsters, including some polls in this aggregate, by the way, like Morning Compost. They were off by 8 points in the midterms. We know this. They underestimated House Republicans by 8 points. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Still, they have the race within 3. That's not good enough for Kamala Harris. Even if it is the end result, it may not be good enough for Kamala Harris. Depends on how some of those big states move, like California, New York, Florida, of course. A lot of people are expecting they do move right by 5 points on average. Okay, well, that means the popular vote electoral college cutoff is not going to be 5 points. Still, it could be 2 to 3 points, somewhere in that range. But polls have underestimated Donald Trump not once, but twice in 2016 and 2020 at the national level and at the state level in many of these key Rust Belt states. He leads in Arizona. Georgia's a jump ball. Pennsylvania's a jump ball. Wisconsin and Michigan, he lags behind a little bit, but we know how bad polls are in those states when it comes to polling that unique Donald Trump vote. It doesn't work for a lot of these other Republicans. When it comes down to Donald Trump, though, he has this unique base that he's able to get out in presidential years, and the pollsters routinely keep missing them. There's no real reason to believe, the methodology's changed. Now, I'm not saying you're going to see a 7-point polling error again in the state of Wisconsin, but could you see a 4-point polling error, a 5-point polling error? Yeah, it's possible. I wouldn't write it off. Donald Trump could win the state of Wisconsin by several points, and that could be a brutal blow to the Harris campaign, which realizes they're struggling in Pennsylvania and North Carolina to the point where they're, you're putting Wisconsin at a much higher priority than, honestly, I would if I ran their campaign. But either way, they know the data. They have the internal data. It is not looking good for the Harris campaign whatsoever. It's not looking good. As much as they want to pretend everything is fine, they bust people to their rallies. It's the enthusiasm. Do they really have the enthusiasm? Now, this is a very facetious metric, I will say. This is not, Trump is going to win in a landslide. But you look at the cookie polls. We've covered them in the past, little bit in 2020. But this is a beatdown because Trump led the cookie poll. This is suburban Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. Trump led the cookie poll in 2020. He led it by a 2-1 margin. Of course, that's somewhat expected. This is like a 9-1, 10-1 margin. And if Kamala Harris was actually somebody that was drumming up enthusiasm, more enthusiasm than Trump, and it's true that an enthusiastic vote does weigh the same as an unenthusiastic vote. There's no denying that. But when you look at this cookie poll, it's this is a beatdown. We're hearing a lot about the Kamala momentum, Kamala enthusiasm. It's not there. It's not there. It's just not. There's no other way to chalk it up. The Obama would always win the cookie polls. Wasn't even close. Trump won them in 2016. He won them in 2020, but not by this margin. There is a big enthusiasm boost. There really is a big enthusiasm boost in real life for Donald Trump. The question is, can we, challenge, or I guess channel that, not challenge, channel into ballots that we can get out? Can we get people out to vote on Election Day? Can we do it? Can we get people out to vote beforehand? Can we get as many ballots in that election box, as Joe Biden would say, the battle box by Election Day? Can we do it? I think the answer is yes, but we need to make sure that we go out there, get everybody we know out to vote that we possibly can. And that's how we win the election. It's not even by public opinion or persuasion. I think we've won the persuasion argument. I think all the attacks that you see levied at somebody like Donald Trump, they bounce off. He's just too big to fail in some ways. He's got all this baggage, but a lot of it's been proven fake. If you're undecided and you're considering Trump, it's not likely going to affect you at this stage in the game, because the people considering Trump at the end of the day, what are they going to do? Vote with their pocketbook. They're going to get in that voting booth or get their ballot, and they're going to vote for Donald Trump. They're either going to seal it up and send it in, or they're going to vote for Trump, and then they're going to leave the polling place, and that's the end of that. End of discussion. No guilt from them. We know how these things work. We do. The undecideds usually break for Trump for a reason down the stretch. And if that's true again, Kamala Harris is in deep shit. She's got the debate coming up, and we'll see what happens in that debate. But if you see her speaking skills in that CNN interview, if you just hear her in general, giving speeches on a teleprompter. What did she do when she was doing the accent thing? She did the accent in Detroit. Then she unveiled her other accent, her normal accent in Pittsburgh. She said something like the 64 days until the most important of our lives. She forgot the word. She forgot the word election. If Biden did that, we'd be talking about it. We'd be making fun of him for, oh, look, it's Biden, another Biden moment. Harris arguably is not as weaker off the cuff than Biden. Biden, when he usually is on teleprompter, he doesn't do stuff like that. He does the goofiest stuff when he's off teleprompter, says the most out-of-pocket things off teleprompter. Kamala Harris on teleprompter, she's younger. She doesn't have the age excuse, which I always thought was kind of a distraction. But she does not have what it takes to be president. It's just true. We know why she was chosen for VP. We know why she got to the top in the first place. We don't have to keep bringing it up. We don't have to keep talking about it. But her entire existence is an affront to meritocracy. That's all she is. And if America is still the country that exists in terms of the principles that it was founded on, she's going to be resoundingly rejected this November. The problem is that we have a lot of stupid people in this country, and it's a very sad thing. So we need to make sure we get out the vote and get out to vote, but also get out the vote, because there's plenty of other people that we know. They may be apolitical. They may like Trump, but maybe they don't vote. Well, then they need to vote, period. We have enough math to win. There's no reason to lose, no excuses whatsoever. Democrats, in terms of what they do, they always have their base. They actually stopped registering voters because they realized that the more registered voters they have that typically vote, the less it actually benefits them. We saw this in terms of what they've done over the years, in the early Trump years, in the Rust Belt. We saw this with, Hispanics even in South Texas and parts of Nevada in 2020, where the populations that came out to vote in record numbers actually came out to vote, but they didn't come out to vote for Biden. They came out to vote for Donald Trump. So they stopped registering low propensity voters because they know where the low propensity voters are going to go now. They used to care about, everybody should vote, high turnout. They don't want high turnout anymore. So we need to swamp them with the highest turnout possible so we win. Didn't used to be that way with the Republican Party, but this is a new party. This is a new era under Donald Trump, and we need to make sure that we're playing to win. So there's plenty of other outlets for people to go to. Obviously, there's the Early Vote Action app. There's phas.com. There's, I think, 10xvotes.com for Michigan. But for Arizona, there's a potential offering. If people live in Arizona and they want to get out, I was informed of this. I'll put the link in chat, but you guys can fill out this Google form and potentially become a paid volunteer, get the vote out for Trump in the state of Arizona. I will put the form in chat right here if you guys would like to check that out. But also the merchandise. We have merch. Finally, again, we have merchandise. You guys want to go support the channel, buy the merch. I would recommend you guys do it to make sure that we're able to get some publicity. We love these designs. We'd love to draw some more people to the channel. People like the shirts. They like the merch, whatever. People ask, where'd you get it? Oh, it's from Red Eagle Politics. How great is that? But we have merchandise. You guys can get the t-shirts. You guys can get the tank tops. You guys can get the coffee mugs. We have posters. We've got the new drop. We've also got the old merch. And the shirt that I'm wearing right now, you guys can go buy that as well. It's on the site, shop.redeaglepolitics.com. The link is in the pin chat. And I would encourage you guys check out the merch as well. So in terms of the 2024 polls, we see this, and it's a dead heat. You can't exactly predict what's going to go on for sure. And I say this in my predictions. We're 2 months out of the election. A lot can happen. It comes down to turnout. But some people with very large egos happen to stick to their own antiquated old models and say, what I say is whatever's going to happen, and I'm a prophet, and if you disagree with me, I'm going to laugh at you and call you names. That's the 13 keys. And we've covered the 13 keys, and we know how the 13 keys operate. And to be honest, if you apply what's currently going on consistently, objectively, Donald Trump, you could make a case for, would win in the 13 keys. But when you look at this, the model right here, you see what's going on. Lichtman made his final prediction, and to nobody's surprise, he predicted Kamala Harris is going to be the winner of the presidential race. And he outlines the keys, and everybody's freaking out because, oh, well, he's been right so much. Well, first of all, he hasn't. That's the problem. Oh, he got 2016 right. Yeah, no, he didn't. He went on, I think it was either Fox News or CBS. We can get the clip. We could pull up the clip before the 2016 election in September. And what did he say? He said Donald Trump, the only battleground states that he thinks Donald Trump can win are Ohio and Iowa and Maine's 2nd district. So that means no Florida, no North Carolina, Arizona, depends on if you would, quantify that as a battleground back then. But basically, he did not predict the election. His model predicts it predicted the popular vote, and Donald Trump lost the popular vote. But before it predicted the electoral college until Al Gore ended up winning not winning. He won the popular vote, but he lost the electoral college in 2000, and then the model started to, in terms of how Lichtman interpreted it, he said, no, it's actually just the popular vote. And then when Trump wins, oh, it's the electoral college. And plus he claimed that Al Gore had the race stolen from him. Not true. Objectively not true. The courts wanted to keep, and I'm no fan of George Bush. Everybody knows I'm not a fan of Bush. I don't like Gore either, but I'm no fan of Bush whatsoever. I'm not like this Bush defender, but it's clear that the left wanted the court to keep counting and counting until Bush would lose the state of Florida. And yeah, I think butterfly ballots ended up doing in Gore in the state of Florida with Palm Beach County. I love Pat Buchanan, but there's no way he got that many votes. There's no way he ran up the score like that in the state of, or in Palm Beach County, just because you look at the rest of the state and the rest of the country, he wasn't getting vote totals like that. So it's understandable. You look at the ballot, why somebody would vote for Buchanan when they meant to vote for Gore, but that doesn't matter because the model is supposed to account for everything, right? It's supposed to account for everything. Look at all the election law changes that unfairly gave Joe Biden an advantage in the 2020 election. You can't put that in your model. There's no way you can put that in your model. So when it comes down to the model, you look at some of these keys, midterm gains. Yeah, Democrats lost seats in the House. They didn't have a primary contest, despite the fact that they didn't even know who their nominee was going to be, a couple months ago. The incumbent's not seeking re-election, which that's the thing. The number one kicker for this whole Lichtman nonsense is that he believed that Joe Biden was a stronger candidate. Post-debate Biden, he's like, they can't remove Biden because they might lose. That shows how out of touch he is and how out of touch the model is. Because all the Democrat strategists, you think all of them are just like, I don't know, like dumb and want to shoot themselves in the foot? Of course not. Of course not. Biden would not have won. He might have made a comeback. He might have made things interesting. He was not winning any one of those big 7 swing states. I can guarantee you that much. He was not winning Pennsylvania. He was not winning Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. He wasn't winning a single one of those states. Even if you want to say, oh, he would have gotten Virginia at the end of the day when the polls had it neck and neck, or he would have got Minnesota, or he would have got maybe, I don't know, New Hampshire or something like that, Maine at large. He was not getting the states that he needed in terms of that big 7 under any circumstance. The guy, his brain is non-existent. It's mush. It's not there. Donald Trump in the second debate would have walked all over him again. It would have been brutal. But we don't have to talk about Biden, but it is kind of relevant to the testament of how weak Lichtman's analysis is. So yeah, incumbent seeking re-election, but isn't Trump kind of an incumbent? How does the model take into consideration somebody that has a record that would make them a strong candidate if they have a record that every single poll, do you approve of the way Trump handled his job as president? Every single poll has a positive callback. It doesn't matter whether Trump leads or not. The callback of Trump's approval is always positive. That's the problem with Lichtman. So the short-term economy, here's another thing. He turned the key false for Bush despite strong fundamentals, first Bush in 92, because the public perception of the economy was poor. But here's the problem. If you look at what people are saying about the economy, they say recession. That's what matters. 59% of Americans, whether the data shows recession or not, they believe that the U.S. is in a recession. So how does that not matter to Lichtman, but it mattered in 92? Maybe the guy's just a liar and inconsistent hack. Maybe that's what it is. He's a snake oil salesman. So again, you talk about the economy. Should the economic key even be false? And talk about the no third party key, because the reason why Trump led his model in 2016, the way he claims, was because the one key that turned it was the third party key. Because, Gary Johnson. But Gary Johnson got he didn't get 4% of the vote. The threshold is 10%. So how exactly would that key be turned then, but not when, he was saying the key wouldn't be turned for RFK Jr. when he was polling at 5%. And again, does a third party candidate, it could take away from Trump, or there could be a third party taking away from Harris. Just like RFK, when Biden dropped out, started to take from Trump, but still, Cornel West, Jill Stein, they continue to take votes away from Kamala Harris, and you kind of see that happen. So major policy change, again, that one's subjective. No social unrest, that one's subjective. But again, I agree. You don't have like BLM riot scale stuff with the Palestine people. No scandal. You're going to tell me the Her Report's not a scandal? You're going to tell me that the whole, Biden health debacle was not a scandal? That was bipartisan, because Lichtman always said bipartisan recognition. That became bipartisan. That's why they forced out Biden. That's what they don't understand. So foreign military failure, he finally agrees that they have a military failure, but it had nothing to do with Afghanistan. And he's actually giving them, from what I heard today, he's giving them the success key. He's going to give them the major foreign military success. What is the success? What success have we seen between Afghanistan, between Russia, Ukraine, between what we're seeing in the Middle East? What would the success be? It doesn't add up. So he gives them a key for free because he just feels like it. He agrees that Harris is not charismatic. He says Trump is not charismatic to a large number of people. And in terms of Trump being polarizing, I can kind of see the rationale, even though I personally think Trump is charismatic. But you look at what's going on here. It's like this guy and the key people, they're like, oh, Trump can't win now. No, the keys are just trash. And Harris can win. I'm not saying she can't win, but it's not because of these keys. It's not because of the old man with the little keychain that's probably going to fall apart at the rate things are going with this election, but we'll see. And what's going to happen? Is it going to go back to being a popular vote thing? And then he's going to change the keys in 2016 where, the third party actually was under 5%, so it did predict a Hillary Clinton popular vote, because that's what he does. That's what he does every cycle. There's so much revisionist history type stuff going on with this guy, and it doesn't matter. I'm not saying Harris can't win. I'm not saying Trump is guaranteed to win. I'm just saying if she wins, it's not going to have anything to do with these keys, because most people trust Trump on the economy. Most people trust Trump on foreign policy. The one issue she's got a leg up on is abortion. It's not even a very big issue. But you look at that and it's like she's at her peak. She's not even polling high enough to win now, but apparently it's over. It's over for Donald Trump because some old professor guy says it's over. How many models every cycle get proven wrong? There were a lot of them that had Trump winning in 2020, or that had Hillary winning in 2016, or that had, even Romney in 2012. Every cycle has a model that gets proven wrong in some way, shape, or form. Lichtman's already was twice over the past 6 elections, and now it seems as if it very well could be proven wrong again. So enough of the key talk. I get a lot of people saying, but the keys. Doesn't matter. I don't want to hear about the keys. I want to see what's going on in the real world. I want to see how many people we can get out to vote, because you can't use an antiquated model to predict an election that could come down to 10,000 votes in several states. You can't do it. There's no logical metric, especially this far out. You got your final prediction. I'll be making my final prediction. But how do you make an election prediction without an election map, given how this election goes in this country? Because it's just malpractice. It's luck and malpractice. It's a combination of those two things. And we have a duty to prove this guy wrong come November. So we will be getting to the super chats. We have a lot of super chats to get to. We're 25 minutes into the stream. We'll see what you guys have to say. But Johnny Heartdog kicking off the show with a $5 super chat saying there's no way Trump wins Michigan and loses Georgia. If he wins Michigan, he's going to win Georgia. And if he loses Georgia, he's going to lose Michigan. I tend to agree. It's hard to really map out the whole snake sort of graph, but it's extraordinarily difficult to see Donald Trump win Michigan but lose Georgia. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would not make that prediction right now that it's even remotely a plausible thing to happen. Also for 10, Johnny Heartdog says, been in Alaska for a few months, and I come to realize Alaska is a Republican state, but also a liberal state. And though Alaska is mostly Republican, there's also a lot of libertarians and independents too. Yeah, Alaska is a state that's got this very libertarian edge to it, very independent streak. It's kind of like New Hampshire, but instead of like liberal leaning, it's more conservative leaning. But there are a lot of libertarians up in Alaska. And it kind of makes sense given the fact that it's a state that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's got its own vibe to an extent going on. Also, Maryland Degati 83 says National Guard in New York are in duty in streets according to Loomer that says they're ready to throw Trump in prison. Well, when it comes to Loomer, it's like I'll believe it when I see it sort of thing. She's been right about a lot of stuff, but then she's also been really wrong about a lot of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what they do. It's going to be difficult to put him in prison before the election as things stand with the whole appeals process and things like that. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says also getting rid of ranked choice voting and top 4 primary candidates being on the ballot will be on the ballot this November as Proposition 2. I'm voting yes on it, but will my vote be enough? Hopefully. Hopefully, it's a confusing process. And hopefully there's not a third option. You have to ranked choice vote the ranked choice voting referendum. I don't know how that would work, but you never know. Also, they're deliberately wording it in a way that's confusing, so you think you're voting for it instead of against it. Very deceptive. Yeah, Lisa Murkowski's a POS, corrupt POS, will do anything to stay in power because she knows that she doesn't represent the interests of the party, so they have to change the whole election system, and then they get a Democrat congresswoman out of the whole ordeal who might be able to stay there, but we'll see because one of the Republicans is a team player and dropped out of that election, so we'll see how that one shakes out. But also, Maryland Degati 83 says Tony Gonzalez says we'll lose the House. I say the House needs to lose Tony Gonzalez. The time for that was the primary, though. And I don't know what the point of this is. It's not like the House is really at risk if Donald Trump wins the election and you see a lot of these down-ballot coattails continue. I've always said that, the presidency, if it goes Republican, the House probably does too. So I don't know what he's talking about. A lot of these rhino losers, they kind of want to govern in the minority for some reason. It's kind of bizarre. Maybe it's because they want to have this appearance of, we'll sign on to everything the left wants so we can, be friends with them at the dinner parties and stuff. It's just uniparty. It's all it is. How much money did they spend on him in the primary so they could beat Brandon Herrera? I mean, they spent so much money against him, and he barely spent any, and he almost won. And he was running an online campaign too. I mean, it's embarrassing for Gonzalez. Apex Caliber says, where are the DeSimp doomers now? Well, they're just whining on social media. They're just demoralization ops. That's all they are. That's all they do. Also, Apex Caliber says Lauren Chen is a loser for telling us not to vote for Trump. Well, I don't know what's going on with that whole Russian money laundering thing. I've heard a lot about it, but it's still unclear. Was she directly involved? Did she know? I'm assuming that pretty much everybody under her didn't know, but did she know? Because she and her husband were at top of that company. It's strange to me. I don't really want to comment on it too much, but from what I've heard, it could have been like a setup. Either way, is Russia paying her and others to like stop people from voting for Trump? Because if that's what they're trying to do, isn't that strange? And it runs contrary to every single thing that they're saying about Russian interference. Russia doesn't want Trump to be president because they know that Trump is not going to let them get away with stuff. Same thing goes for China. Same thing goes for all these other countries. They want weak leadership in this country so they can have the strong leaders, but not us. It would make sense why Putin would go out and endorse Harris, and he did go out and endorse Harris. So, I don't know. Alcides Perez says gun owners in Pennsylvania registered to vote 600,000 or not. Well, how do you find these people is a real question. I mean, you gotta get them out to vote for sure, but what do? Have like a voter registration rep outside like a gun store or something, or a shooting range? I mean, that could work. Apex Caliber says, I predict Trump leads Virginia post-debate, won't need Michigan. Well, he doesn't need Michigan, but he's not. I don't think he gets Virginia. I don't think there's enough math for it. He got 44% twice. He might get 47. That's not going to be good enough. It might be a lot closer. But again, that's probably not going to be good enough. I don't see the path. You're going to have to do ridiculously better in these suburban counties in Northern Virginia. I just don't know if he's going to be able to do it. Even if he does turn a corner, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it. And if he's able to improve, is it by enough to win the state of Virginia? Is he going to match like Youngkin's percentages? I highly doubt it. You can call me a doomer on Virginia or New Mexico or a lot of these other states. I think with Biden, there would be a path, but with Harris, I just can't see it because the Democrat base is going to be a lot more consolidated. But we don't need Virginia. Pennsylvania, we do need. And if we're running close in Virginia, we're probably going to be doing better in Pennsylvania, which is huge. So Steve Dow says, I'm sure that's real. I don't know what's real. What are you referring to? Let's see. Johnny Heartdog says, question, if the far left-leaning outlier polls weren't in the aggregate, but only the balanced ones, would Trump be in the lead for the popular vote? No, he would not be in the lead. It's close. Like I said, the popular vote doesn't matter. I think it's a jump ball. It's like 47 to 48% for both. There's probably 2 to 3% that's truly undecided. And it's possible some people might be parking their vote and could switch, but not many of them. If anybody's going to switch at this point, I feel like it'd be the soft support for Kamala Harris, because the more people may learn about her or see her in the debate, there's a lot of room for error. But even then, it would take a debate disaster to really eat into her support. And the same thing goes for Donald Trump. I don't think the debate's going to do much, but hopefully, he can galvanize what's left of the undecided supporters. Lovely 6 says Lichtman versus Silver. We'll see who's right. Yeah, I mean, that's just a strange thing to see. Nate Silver predicting Trump is the favorite. He's right, but he's been wrong about a lot of stuff, from politics to baseball to football to basketball to every single thing he predicts. He misses the mark by a lot every time. So, hopefully he's off in the other way and Trump wins by a lot. So we'll see. Stephen Isaac says, evil only triumphs when good men do nothing. Don't let Harris triumph because the black pill tells you doing nothing's easier. Yeah, that's the problem. We can't be, having this mindset that it's over. I never understand doomers that say, oh, well, Trump is going to lose. It's like, why are you saying that when he's neck and neck? Like, you just want to give up for some reason because it's not going to be handed to you. Like, don't waste time on social media. Start actually getting involved, making calls, knocking doors, doing everything you need to do. That's how we win this election. It's not going to be whining on the internet. Also, Chris Creative says, I've seen Hogan is tied with Also Brooks today in Maryland. What do you think? I don't think he's tied. He's going to get his ass handed to him. Just like I don't think Sherrod Brown's going to win. A lot of these polls in these states, down ballot races, they're going to be off because the presidential top of the ticket is going to have a lot of pull. Hogan might lose by like 17 and Brown may lose by like 4, even if the polls show them polling about the same. Maryland Degatti 83 says, do you think the SAVE Act will pass? Yeah, no. I don't think there's enough votes for it, but it is what it is. we'll see what happens. They're not going to shut down the government over it. It's just strange that they don't want to make it or double down on making something illegal for whatever reason. It would probably help the Democrats politically, because then they could say, hey, if they win, they could say, hey, you know what, we signed on to all your SAVE Act stuff and we won fair and square because you can't cry fraud or whatever. They'd be able to say something like that, but they're not saying it. So again, it's a layup for them, and they're balking at it. And it kind of shows that they're not really that serious about, we're going to pretend to be tough on the border, when they won't even sign on to something like it. And technically it's illegal, but there's some states that for like local offices, they will let people do it. And it would just be a symbol to like the broken windows policy, because we should have a broken windows policy. Yeah, it's rare. Non-citizen voting in like federal presidential elections is rare, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And when you have very close states and you have a border crisis with 20 million new people, probably could even be more, then it's a major problem, a major problem. Zach Ducharme, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, says it's not going to be a debate, it's going to be a roast. Also want to add this: as a resident of New Hampshire, there's a lot of support for Trump, even on the college campuses, and Dems I know, Trump 2024. Well, I hope you're right. There is a reason why she's going up there. But again, New Hampshire, it's a state that we're probably not going to be able to win unless we're doing really well. In Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. So again, I say focus on the main 7 that we need to focus on, and let like the New Hampshire GOP carry the weight up there. Maybe you do one visit or something. XJ Cherokee Bear says Lichtman's brain is stuck in 2012. Yeah, true. Yeah, it's like all these elections he predicted correctly. A 4-year-old could predict 2004, maybe not 04 as much, but 2008, 2012. Like everybody knew Obama was going to win both those times. The Romney Copers were delusional, and everybody with half a brain who wasn't wish casting knew that Romney was not going to end up winning that election. So, and the polls didn't show it either. There's a lot of revisionist history I see about that too. Car Wash Channel says, is anyone going to watch Trump v. Harris debate on ABC on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern? I will be. We'll go live after. Sam Madsen says, do you think Biden would have lost Minnesota? Yeah, it's possible. It is entirely possible he would have lost Minnesota, because that debate was such a disaster for him. And I think the third-party vote share could have been high enough to the point where Republicans would have a shot. So, yeah, I think it'd be possible. Varghese Iyadil says prediction on who controls House post-election. I think that it's probably going to be the Republicans, but we'll see. It's going to be close. Johnny Hartdog says, do we need to even talk about the 13 keys? It's been debunked so many times. I see no reason to talk about it. It's debunked and proven wrong, old news. Well, that's kind of the main thing that I've been trying to hammer into a lot of people's heads, because they just don't get it. The problem is that he just made his prediction, so I thought we'd mention it, and then we don't have to mention it on any stream. But I know we're going to get a lot of people worried and asking super chats about it, so you might as well just get it done. Propa says 13 keys guy says Biden would win even after the debate. Therefore, he was already wrong this year. Exactly. He can cope and be like, oh, Biden still would have won. He would have done better. Nobody believes that. Nobody believed it at the time. That's why he was replaced, and nobody believes it now. Rhina Mocker says, what is your favorite poll? Do you like Trafalgar? I like them, but I don't really have a favorite poll in like every state. I think certain polls are good in certain states. Trafalgar has been pretty good in like Wisconsin, for example, but 2022, they didn't have the greatest cycle. It just depends. I think I look at aggregates. I don't look at individual polls. Of course, your favorite polls say what you want to hear, but also sometimes what you want to hear isn't in line with reality. So again, I could say Rasmussen's my favorite, and maybe they're going to be the most accurate this cycle. I don't know. Seems like their methodology is kind of, it looks like it's improved since like past cycles and things like that. But I can't say they're my favorite pollster just because of that, because they have a result that looks good. But you can't call Rasmussen like, right-leaning, too right-leaning to be serious, and then somehow act like Quinnipiac. You see some of these people on the left, they act like these left-leaning outliers that are wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong again. They're gospel to these clowns, but some of these other polls, if they just had like one bad cycle or whatever, oh no, they need to be written off as right-leaning polls because they don't say what I want them to say. It's not how it works. A lot of those right-leaning polls underestimated Donald Trump in 2020, for example. So Jared the American says, my college has a pro-Harris flyer up Trump 2024. Yeah, it's not surprising to see colleges with stuff like that, but I have not seen much enthusiasm for Kamala Harris whatsoever, even compared to Biden. But, we're not quite to the election just yet. But it seems like she got this big boost. But is it real? Does she have a real boost when they're busing a lot of people to rallies, when they're literally going out there and just weaponizing the media to making her this electoral juggernaut? Oh, it's Obama 08 all over again. No, it's not. Nobody believes that. Not a single person believes that, except delusional freaks on certain social media platforms. Nobody believes it's Obama 08. You don't see that enthusiasm. Obama could fill up 3 stadiums that could have 100,000 people at once. That's how Obama, in terms of his prominence level, that's how revered he was by a lot of these millennials and younger voters and black voters and disaffected voters. And good chunk of those voters grew up and then became Trump Republicans, voted for Trump, especially in those Rust Belt states that carried Trump to victory once and very well could carry Trump to victory again, at least, 1 or 2 of them for sure. He's going to need at least one to win the election regardless. Libertarian Spirit says Dems and United Russia have a lot in common. Both root for political centralization, state censorship, gun control, affirmative action, capital gains, etc. We lost to commies in Russia. Keep fighting commies here. Well, I'm sure you could find things they have in common. Of course, they'll say Russia's like far right, and technically it is. But they sit here and virtue signal about, oh, we got to fight Russia. Russia's evil, which I'm not saying they're not, but they're doing the same things. They will try to lock their political opponents up in prison over basically a traffic ticket because, it's inconvenient to the regime. You replace our democracy with our regime, it makes a lot more sense. It's more honest that way. They would never say it that way because it's honest, and it doesn't sound as good because it's true, and they know it's true. So Jimmy Payne for 20 says, your thoughts on Republicans getting SAVE Act passed or government shutdown? If government shutdown actually occurs, would Dems blame Republicans, causing it to backfire on them big time with a lot of pissed off voters? Well, I mean, it's tough to really see how it's going to pan out. I don't think that the government shutdown is going to occur, but I could see Democrats, they're going to try to politicize it. Either way, it's like you can't cut a deal to get this thing passed at the same time. Like, I'd have to see some polling on it. Steve Dow for 10 says, I was responding to the guy claiming they're preparing a prison cell for Trump. Merchant will do what is needed to advance the Dem cause. At this point, his best bet is to postpone the sentencing. I agree, because all it's going to do is give Trump another couple $100 million, a rallying cry, might even guarantee his election win. When the spotlight is on Trump and he's being made a martyr, it's not a good look for the Democrats. It's only a good look for Trump. You think they would have figured that out by now. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I think you might get a delayed sentence. That could be the worst of both worlds for the Democrats, but we'll see. John Waffle H2P for 20 says Republicans need to have town halls in major suburban cities to get our word out and to get people on our side to go vote for Trump. Well, that's what Trump just did in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Tucson PaleoCon for 30 says this is how much you can get paid per hour if you sign up to knock doors for Trump in Arizona. You could also spam the link for the people as well, Tucson, because you are a moderator. Sam Madsen says, would McCormick have done better than Oz in 22? Probably, but not by much, honestly. I think he's surprisingly a better candidate against somebody like Casey. Fetterman was underrated. Casey might be overrated because when you look at Casey, he's got the name, but it's kind of worn off. And as the election cycle goes on, how many polls have we seen with this race within 2 between Casey and McCormick? We've seen so many of them. And especially with Trump on the ballot, he's going to have a real shot. You never know. You absolutely never know what's going to happen. I feel oddly confident about Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, I think the ticket splitting might even be more there, but I think that Trump might win it by more where Hovde can win. So we'll see. We'll see. Michigan Nationalist says House 240, 195R, Senate 5842R. Electoral College 270, 268 Dems. Yeah, that's not happening, man. I don't know what universe you just came from. DePueb says, so if John is the black person expert, Vince is the Hispanic person expert, what is Rep? I have to be the everybody expert. I mean, I have to see where everybody's moving in terms of where every demographic's going. Like, that's the thing. I'm just the expert. There's no prefix to that. So JJR says, thoughts on Lichtman's excuse for getting 2,000 wrong? It's just coping. That's all it is. Just own up to it. Look, I've been wrong before. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's model's perfect. You're not a prophet. It's kind of a grift. How's he going to cope if Trump wins? He said the other day, Trump could win, or he said if Trump wins. You wouldn't be saying that if you were confident in your model that he couldn't win. Ragdoll MMA says a lot of people I know are voting Harris Hogan in Maryland. Well, a lot of people will. It just doesn't mean it's going to be enough. I'll believe it when I see it. If it's within 10, I'd be very surprised. Scott B says America don't F this up. Enough said. True. So we'll take more super chats and we'll see what happens. Libertarian Spirit says the left work globally. Look at France, Brazil. The Guardian supported. I think the right, isolated and local, we might lose in the long term. Glad to see Elon and Tucker started understanding that. I'm for the united right front globally, I assume you mean. Well, yeah, but the right is more nationalistic. It's good. I mean, you could support nationalist movements in other countries. I don't think that runs contrary to putting America first. For example, you want to see the people in the UK. You want to see the Reform do well there. You want to see the right-wing populist parties take over Europe. It's great to see because it does carry over to a large degree in the West. It's kind of like a gradient of sorts. But I agree that people can work globally, and they should. But I don't think that you can't focus on. I don't think we have to become globalists because that's why the left is successful. They become globalists, and that's why they're able to work globally more seamlessly. Apex Caliber says, imagine caring about Liz Cheney and McCain's son. Yeah, McCain's son. This is a bridge too far. Donald Trump filmed something at a cemetery, and John McCain made a political ad at that same cemetery, but he gets a pass. His own dad gets a pass, but he will moral grandstand about Donald Trump because he's Donald Trump. That's all it is. These people are clowns. Does anybody care what the McCains have to say? It's not 2008 anymore. Nobody even cares what Mike Pence has to say about this election. Nobody cares. They're old news. Just let it go. That's what I say. I mean, Liz Cheney, that's the best endorsement Trump could get, is her not endorsing Trump. It shows that we're not the party of the establishment. We're not the party of these neocon losers. That's the left now. The left they've become neocons on foreign policy. The Republican Party is being molded into an actual, America First party. It may take some time. It's not fully there yet, but I mean, we've moved the ball down the field a lot since, 2015. Let's see. Steve Dow says opinion on Rich Barris and his big data poll, Trump 50, Harris 50. I think that's about right. I think the popular vote's about even. Stephen Knisik says, I think Dennis Quaid's Reagan movie came out at a perfect time. It reminds all the boomer cons that Reagan, while a great man, won the Cold War because he was abrasive like Trump. I mean, it's election season. It's not surprising that they're dropping some more political films. It's good to have one. Even if it's like more of a boomer con thing with the whole Reagan stuff, where you have prominent actors playing in an actual production. It's pretty solid. And they're conservatives making the film. Leon says Kyle Kalinske, who thinks Trump is too pro-war, is voting for the same person as Liz Cheney. Yeah, I mean, these people is what it is. They care more about the vision of what America would look like. The left, they have that same vision. The pieces are all just falling where they need to. You have the more principled people that were on the left, people like Tulsi Gabbard. They've just swallowed their pride and came over. RFK Jr. swallowing his pride and coming over to the right side. But you have a lot of these other people, no, they're not authentic. They will shill for whatever the system wants them to shill for because they have TDS for one reason or another, and or there's just these weird little hang-ups with their own ideology they just can't get over. And that represents a lot of the left, but especially the online left. James says, will Georgia and Wisconsin be called on election night? I think so, unless Georgia's just too close. I mean, Georgia, they count quickly in Georgia. They'll count fast enough in Wisconsin. We'll know the winner in Wisconsin. We'll know the winner in Georgia. Apex Caliber says principled cons voting Harris are clowns. They're not conservative or principled. There's nothing principled about it. There's nothing conservative about it. What is conservative about Kamala Harris? Absolutely nothing. Nothing in policy, nothing in even personality, but personality doesn't even matter. The policy is what counts if you're principled. The vision for the country counts if principled. Timothy Postal Wait says Lichtman has predicted a Harris victory. Thoughts? We already covered the 13 keys, but again, like I said, he's been wrong before. He pretends he hasn't been wrong before, and you can't predict with the model. You just can't do it. JJ Ark says, do you know Lichtman deletes critical comments? I don't know. I mean, like I said, it is what it is. The guy is just somebody that has a model that's very subjectively interpreted. It's not consistently interpreted. And there are things that could happen to affect the election, as close as our elections are nowadays, that do not exist within the model. That's the thing he doesn't seem to understand. So whatever. He could be right, but I don't care. Everything I say still stands because he's not predicting based off of what's going on. He's predicting based off of his subjective model. Even in 2020, there were a lot of issues with his prediction. Boris Davitsky says, hey, Red Eagle, you're going to stream on Sunday in the Delaware, Rhode Island, New Hampshire primary on Tuesday. Thank you for your content. Keep up the good work. I don't know about Sunday. I do think I will stream on Tuesday, though. Apex Caliber says Fuentes says he'll go to Michigan campaign against Trump. Okay. He could do whatever he wants to do. It's not necessarily going to impact the voter base in Michigan. I don't think these people understand what the average disaffected voter in Michigan actually cares about. That's kind of the problem with a lot of the fringe individuals that you see on the internet. Let's see. Doggy Down Syndrome says if Trump wins, Lichtman needs to retire forever. Yeah, but he's not going to do that. He'll probably find some way to say Trump stole it, and he's just going to go from there. Or he'll say it's the popular vote again. Or he'll say it doesn't matter because Trump was like an incumbent. You know deep down, whether he even thinks his model is going to be right, he has to be going through in the back of his head the justification for a possibility of a Trump victory and what that entails. He'll blame, Elon bought Twitter and gave it free speech, so that's election interference or something like that, or this Russia thing because some Russian guy gave money to some network or something, and this is a big scandal or something, even though the network was telling people to, or at least being very critical of Donald Trump. It's not how it works out. Ash K2 says, at this stage, what can Trump do to win back the 10 to 15% of Republicans voting for Harris or abstaining? We need all hands on deck, otherwise we're toast. He's not going to lose 10 to 15% of Republicans. There's no way. He doesn't need to win back people that don't exist. If he does that, he's going to lose because he's out of focus. So you see a poll that shows, Trump's at 85 with Republicans. I mean, how many polls? I remember where 30% of Republican women in Florida were voting for Hillary Clinton. That never materialized. The real number was 8%. And that was when Donald Trump was less popular in the GOP as he currently is now. So Steve Dow says, I'm from Georgia. Most of the state counts quickly. Fulton County is poorly run and does not count quickly. Well, they're going to count quickly this time. They did in 2022. They did in the primaries. I'm confident we're going to know the results in Georgia. We're probably going to be able to call a winner before midnight on the East Coast, even just because Georgia, you got, 5 hours to count. It's defortified. It's more seamless. We'll get our results quicker. John Waffle H2P says we need to fix our military. Every old general who bashed Trump over the cemetery incident should be, well, I don't know if that's what it would take, of a court-martialing thing, but they should be. We need to fire a lot of them. That part is true. Michigan Nationalist says if Trump wins but loses the popular vote, CW, no, they're just going to have to whine as they did before. And I'm not saying that, in terms of a popular vote, I'm not saying that the Democrats are going to easily give up power in this election. I don't think they will. I don't think they will at all. But they're gonna throw a temper tantrum. I don't think it's gonna lead to that though. Apex Caliber says RFK now also suing Wisconsin to get him off the ballot. That's the thing. We had all these lawsuits. He had all these lawsuits to keep him on, to keep him on the ballot. But now because he supports Trump, he wants to get off the ballot, and they say no, you have to stay on the ballot. So it's like these people, they're not consistent. They just want to interfere in the election. But I don't think he's going to negatively impact Trump a whole lot in the states where he remains on the ballot, especially because he's now told people in every state, regardless of where they are, that he doesn't want their vote and he wants Donald Trump to have those people's votes. So is that going to give Donald Trump a massive boost? Maybe not, but you talk about 0.3% in a lot of these swing states, even if it's just something like that, that is massive. And I think a lot of those voters would have come home to Trump anyways, but it just speeds up the process. It's much better off right now, so we'll see. But yes, it's all noise. It's all noise. We'll look in regular chat as well. We'll go for a couple more minutes. We'll keep it short. We don't want to go on for too long. I know it's a late stream. I was waiting for the game to wrap up. We're finally in football season. What does that mean? It means the election is right around the corner. We've got 2 months to go, and the election's going to be taking place, so we'll see. As per my last super chat, I meant other way around. If Trump wins the popular vote but loses the election? Probably not, but it'd be a very rare scenario. Maybe you'll have Republicans start calling for the Electoral College to go. I don't personally believe that that's what should happen, but it will be interesting. It would be interesting to see Democrats just go back on that, but I don't believe that that's going to happen whatsoever. I wouldn't want it to happen. I just don't believe it will. Jabe Shepard says the only thing that principled Republicans are conserving is their power in the GOP. To heck with neoconservatism. Exactly. But they don't have power in the GOP anymore, so they're grifting and flocking to the Democrats. Venator says, toss-up voter here. Love to vote for Trump, but I don't want to have to vote for another Bush Jr., which is what we have right now. Well, so you're basically saying that you think Donald Trump is going to go in there and have an underwhelming term in terms of the anti-establishment stuff is what I assume you mean, which it was a legitimate critique of the first term. The problem is that it's a binary choice. And with Donald Trump, you know that already the baseline for his presidency, not a bad one. Harris, it's Biden on steroids. So that if that helps lead you in your decision, think about that. But also, look at the people Trump was surrounded with in 2016. You have Mike Pence, Reince Priebus, and then all these Bush appointees have to come in. And then look at what's around him now. You see Vance is a big improvement. You see RFK Jr. and Tulsi, these anti-war types, these more anti-establishment types. Even if they lean left on certain things, they are steering the party against the uniparty, which I think was Trump's original appeal, and that's good. So you kind of have more of a plan in place to drain the swamp. And Trump has said that he said at the town hall, he laments a lot of these hires that he made for a lot of these posts. And he knows who the bad guys are now in Washington. So if you think there's going to be no improvement, especially when he doesn't have to worry about re-election, it is what it is. But I tell you, if you're undecided, it's 4 years of Trump and 8 years of Kamala Harris, because they're not letting her lose re-election. There is no way. So if that guides you in your decision-making, feel free. If you don't agree with what I said, that's fine. But, you know, our country's on the line here. Everybody's got to get a grip on what's going on right now. So I will say that. How much of the black vote do I think Trump will get? Probably like 14%. I don't think it's going to be a ridiculous amount. I know the polls usually overestimate Trump with black voters, but I think he'll do very well with young black men. They do not like Kamala Harris at all. Many don't even believe she is black herself. I mean, she's like a quarter, African ancestry, but she doesn't resonate with that experience. And plus, you have all these attacks that were mainly from the left, but are technically true about how she would be very selective at how she would be a prosecutor. She'd let murderers that killed other black people free on the street, but then she'd put all these people in jail for like minor drug charges or whatever. She doesn't really have the best on either side. She'll be attacked from both sides on crime because she doesn't really have like an appeal. They're like, Obama had an appeal, especially because he was the first black nominee. Kamala Harris does not have the appeal. She arguably has far less of a standing in the black community than Joe Biden. Hence why in the primary back in 2020, she didn't even make it to Iowa. She could have, if she was really doing well with black voters, well, she would have focused on South Carolina. She would have been able to win that state. But there's a reason why Biden was winning South Carolina. And people say the Clyburn endorsement, he was going to win it regardless, to be honest. I think the Clyburn endorsement helped him for sure, resurrected the campaign. They basically rigged the primary system in his favor by getting all these people to drop out. It's really no secret. Dova Budgie 100 says, I got nothing at the moment. Hello from Pennsylvania. Well, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate the super chat. Let's see. Someone says Trump will be lucky to get 10% of young black men. That's not true. I mean, he already got that. And I think in 2016, he got 10%. So that's not true. That's not true at all. Now, I'm not saying it's a demographic that's super crucial or that he should focus too much time on it, but he's going to improve in that department. There is a little bit of racial depolarization with young men, particularly working class young men, that we see across the board. He's not going to get 50% of that demographic, but could he get like 30%? It would not surprise me if we're talking about black men under the age of like 29. It's not even like 1% of the electorate, though. John Waffle H2P says, should we all move to Canada if she wins? I would not want to go there, although they may be getting an upgrade over Trudeau pretty soon. So that will be interesting to see. Doggy Down Syndrome says, these Warhawk rhinos who agree with Dems on 80% of issues gave us Trump for losing in 2008 and 2012. They should be blaming themselves for his prominence. Yeah, it's true. I mean, there would be no Trump if it wasn't for these people, because what made Trump want to run in the first place was stupid leadership in this country. And that's what prompted him to run. And that's what's happening. DS Cuber says, what do you think is going to happen to Trump on September 18th? I have no idea. I'm not making a prediction. I've seen reports that are conflicting. We'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there. But if they try to put him in jail, they're playing with the fire. I mean, how many times have we tried to tell them, if you indict Trump, his numbers will go up. If you convict Trump, his numbers will go up. If you jail Trump, he's just going to be a martyr. What Trump voters, I mean, you're just going to get the people that are voting for Trump already to double down on their support for Donald Trump. Because even in terms of these independent voters, it's like, hey, wait a minute. This is not something we want to see happen. What's going on? And they're not going to flee to Kamala Harris because of this. There's no way. It's like it's slop for the base on the Democrat side. That's all it is. So we'll see. But no, if they really want to put him in jail, oh, I would love to see that happen. I would not love to see it happen, but I would love to see them try. I would love to see them try. Wouldn't want it to happen, but would like to see them try, because I know that the electoral consequences are dire for them, and if they really want to be smug, arrogant fools and do it, I mean, I told you so. Temporal Forces says, how's Jeff Landry doing in Louisiana? It was satisfying to see the governorship finally go Republican. Also, which state would be the first to indicate who the likely winner would be in the election? I did a video on the website about bellwether counties because they're changing due to different trends, and I think that there's a couple of them, Northampton, Pennsylvania, but how slow do these places count? Now, in terms of the places that are going to dictate the election, I don't know if there is a bellwether state, but like if Michigan goes to Trump, or it's evident that Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan are heavily favored to go to Trump, and even accounting for remaining ballots and stuff like that, it's going to be very difficult to see that happen. But as for Jeff Landry, he's doing a good job. Eric from Wisconsin says, RCP has Baldwin by 6 over Hovde in Wisconsin. I know polls underestimate Trump in Wisconsin. Thoughts in the Senate race? Well, I think that it's also underestimating the down ballot effect. If Trump wins Wisconsin by 3, do you think that Baldwin's going to win? I'd say Baldwin's not going to win if that happens. But, is this split ticket voting does not happen very often. Even in Montana, I don't think that Tester's going to win. I don't even think he's going to, at this point, it might not even be within 10 at the rate things are going. Same thing with Ohio. I don't think Sherrod Brown is going to be able to win, despite what the polls say. Dova Budgie, 100, says, what do I have to do to meet Trump and ask questions? I have no idea. I have no idea. I think a lot of people would love to do that, but if I don't know who knows. Steve Dow for 10 says, I'm assuming Trump wins North Carolina and Pennsylvania. If he loses Georgia, he needs Arizona and Nevada, or Arizona and Wisconsin. Pretty confident in Arizona. Do you like Trump's odds better in Nevada or Wisconsin? Probably Wisconsin, just because of the rural white working class voter trends that we see that just don't get picked up in polling, especially when Donald Trump's on the ballot. I mean, but then again, Nevada, it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it sort of things. I could see a red Nevada and a blue Wisconsin hypothetically, but I would lean towards Wisconsin probably being Republican more so than Nevada. Maybe it's the PTSD, or maybe just the polling tightening in Nevada, one of those things. But we'll see what the polls say at the end of the month. We'll be polling. If you guys want to support the polling fund, just buy my merch if you want to support the polling fund, because the merch sales will go somewhat towards the polling. I recommend people check the merchandise out. But we're going to end the stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me on social media. The links are in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.